telling us about her excellent work on the emergentuniverse.org website. Susie has been working on this for a couple of years, and we went live in October, and now she's going to give us an update.
Okay, so as you said, as Daniel said, I'll be speaking about ICANN's online interactive science museum, emergentuniverse.org, and giving an update. And obviously, as most of you already know, our biggest news is that we finally went live on October 1st with 22 activities. And this included, sorry my slides are quite so dark, this included a homepage and an introduction to emergence, numerous examples of emergent phenomena in diverse systems. It also included a section of activities which introduce what it means to hold an emergent perspective and also principles that underlie emergent phenomena. In addition, we have a section on amyloids, the renegade proteins, and this included activities on amyloid as they appear in materials and also in diseases with an emphasis on Alzheimer's disease. We also included activities on the human aspects of Alzheimer's disease. And I just want to point out that the dance video, Slip Cadence, which is about relationships with a person with Alzheimer's, won for an award for Best Male Choreography at the Inchada International Dance Film Festival in Lisbon, which was pretty exciting. But great, so we have this site, we created this site, we went live with it, but how do we measure whether we've been successful with this site? And that's mostly what I'm going to talk about today. And so there are two aspects of success that I'd like to look into. One is we started with a number of objectives. And do I actually need the mic?
You want the microphone. Okay.
I could put on like my freshman chemistry voice. I was going to say, okay, I don't know.
Can you hear Susie back there? Yeah, this is no problem, don't worry.
Yeah, okay, I didn't think I needed the mic. I was lecturing in a 400-student lecture hall, and the mic broke, and the students in the back screamed at me that I didn't need it. So, but it's been a while since I've been doing that, so my voice got quieter. Anyway, did we meet our objectives, and are people coming to the site and visiting? So how do we look at the first question? Well, we did a prototype study immediately before going live of 43 evaluators in our target audience, age 17 to 29. So for those who may not remember, our target audience is college-bound and college-educated individuals in this age group. And we basically said, go explore the website and then fill out an online survey for us. And then what we did is we compared the results from this survey with the original objectives that we set out to meet when we designed this online science museum. And because an online museum is a free choice learning environment, your students do not have to show up. One of our key goals was a design goal, which is to create a cool site that engages our target audience and makes them want to tell other people about it. So when we asked our prototype group what they liked about the site, they gave us answers like, it's really cool, you made it fun to learn, it's very engaging, the design attracted my attention, relates to our life, encourages discovery, fun to explore, got me to look at the world in a different way, the look is great. So we were really excited by this, and we also asked them whether they would be interested in telling their friends about this website, and 95% of our respondents expressed interest in doing so. So we think that, at least in self-reporting, we met this goal very well. In addition to design goals, we also had learning objectives. And so how well did we do in meeting these learning objectives? Well, our first objective was to explain emergence. And of the people who came to our site, from our prototype group, 98% of them, after visiting, felt that they could explain emergence to a friend. We also wanted to illustrate how the principles of emergence underlie a range of diverse problems. So starting with diversity, first, after visiting our site, 100% of visitors felt that they could give some examples of emergent phenomena. Additionally, a little more complex topic, 93% of them felt that they could understand why amyloids were considered emergent And I know that in this prototype study, we were also checking for technical issues. And some of this 7% who said no couldn't actually find the activities on amyloids. So we're doing quite well. And additionally, 93% felt they could probably identify 2 or 3 principles that underlie emergence. So check on this item.
Wait, Susie, can I ask a question? So,
Yeah.
I mean, as all of us who teach at university know, there's a difference between what students feel they know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
And will qualify all these results, which is self-reporting. We're not doing a test. But I'm saying that they at least felt that they learned this information, which I would say probably means what, they learned 50% of it? Yes, I absolutely agree. But we don't have any of that data. That's a much more in-depth evaluation procedure.
Is it possible at all to collect some data?
One can collect that kind of data, but it really becomes a much more in-depth study that requires funding. Always comes down to that. Because at that time you're really starting to do experimental evaluation work, which we have not done. So this is what we got. Okay, we also wanted to illustrate the value of an emergent perspective for solving problems of scientific and global importance. And so when we asked our prototype group what they felt about this after viewing our website, 95% of them agreed that having an emergent perspective was probably important for solving complex scientific problems, and 84% agreed that this was probably important for problems important to society. So we've managed to convince them of the relevance. However, we also want them to not just come to this website and forget everything they learned. We wanted to inspire a personal relationship between our visitors and both emergent phenomena and the ICAM research areas that we were presenting. And so we looked at 2 measures about this for each topic. One was, did our visitors feel like we had increased their knowledge on the topic? And did they express an interest in seeking out additional information? And for emergence, 98% said, yes, I've learned something. And 98% said, yes, I'm also potentially interested in seeking out more information. How many will do so? What, 5%, 1%? But they at least expressed the interest. Same thing with amyloids. 98% said they had increased their knowledge. 76% were interested in seeking out more information. And for Alzheimer's, 93% said we increased their knowledge, and 91% expressed an interest in obtaining more information. So at least from a self-reporting perspective, we have done relatively well in meeting our educational, actually surprisingly well, I thought, in meeting our educational objectives. But meeting your educational objectives with the website only helps if people come to the website. So the next question is, are people coming to the website? And you can track this through Google Analytics. And I got my water. What kind of information does Google Analytics give you? I'll start with just the number of visits. And we see that in the 3 months that we've been live, we've had over 8,000 visitors, which initially looks really good, but then you suddenly might be a little disturbed when you realize that we had 6,000 visitors in the first month and it dropped off dramatically. What was that about? This is a graph showing as a function of time from the beginning of October to the beginning of January, how many visitors we had per day. And you can see we had 2 huge peaks, which completely changed the scale of this graph. At the beginning of October, this first peak was when we got a favorable blog post on Discover Magazine's Cosmic Variance blog about the Emergent Universe site. That drew in over 2,000 visitors in about 2 days. And then suddenly in October, at the end of October, we got another big peak. There's a website evaluation site called StumbleUpon. And people can follow different users on StumbleUpon. And there was a user with an enormous thousands and thousands of followers who favorited our site. And for the 2 days that we were on their homepage, that brought in about 2,000 visitors. So if you subtract these 2 big advertising peaks out of this, We still had about 2,000 in October, but we also had a lot of other small posts and advertisements that made up the difference. So what I conclude from this is that what we've really done is we've settled down to a rate of around 1,100 per month, and preliminary indications are that we look like we're maintaining that rate. And so we're talking on the order of 15,000 visitors per year.
There's another little bump in November, end of November.
You know, and I think this was people who typed the address in directly, so I can't see where they came from, but they look like they all came from academic institution cities, and it was within a week or two of Carrie's newsletter with my article, so I don't know whether exactly when the newsletter came out, or whether that was somebody who got the newsletter, sent it to everybody they knew. But that pulled in about 200, which actually makes up the difference between November and December.
How many of these are distinct and how many are repeats?
We'll get to that. This is 83% of our visitors are new. But I want to just stop and on visit. You're like, okay, well, let's look at this number. Is this a good number or not a good number? Luckily, Google provides benchmarks, and they provide benchmarks in two different axes. One is the size of the site based on the amount of traffic you had, small, medium, or large. And the other is you can select by industry for various reasons. So the industry I chose was library, museum. I looked at a couple others in the small site, and the numbers were very similar. But what you can see is that a small site is about 250 visitors per month as the average benchmark. A medium site is about 5,000 per month. And a huge site, like probably the Exploratorium or the Library of Congress, is 32,000 per month. So we're sitting here at 1,100, right in between a small site and a medium site. Okay, but what about these other numbers? So it's not just, are they coming? It's what are they doing when they come? So the first number is the bounce rate. And what the bounce rate means is, this is the percent of visits where a visitor came into a particular page and left without going to any other pages. It doesn't say how long they spent on that page, but just says they only accessed one page and didn't explore further. And if you look at the benchmarks, typical numbers are about 50%. About half your visitors don't explore further. We have 4 in 5 visitors exploring further. This is an outstanding number. What about the time, on average, that visitors are spending on our site?
Wait, so can I ask a question, technical question? So because of the design, right, there are frames that have openings, so each of them counts as a new page?
No, a page actually, so basically, our site's a flash site.
Yeah.
But we've set it up so that the head page for each activity, so for example, the dance video is a page. The home page with all the stuff that comes up, that's one page. So every kind of key activity that you would find in the menu in the upper left-hand corner is a page. All of the stuff that you're doing within that still falls within that same page.
So in fact, these numbers are even better than what you're saying, because this gives not only they explore all the flash that comes on that page,
but they're actually going to another page. They're following a link.
The reality is actually better.
Yes. The reality is even better than what it's showing compared to, say, an HTML site. But again, HTML sites have different density of information on the pages, etc. It's a loose number.
This seems particularly important for this website, because I think that was one of your goals, was to capture something of the sense of exploring a museum.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that here is where you really should be pleased relative to the average that you accomplished something that you wanted to think was special.
Thank you. So let me tell you what I'm even more pleased about. If I can now find one. There's a button. What is the average length of time that people are spending on our site when they come? And the first thing I want to do is look at the benchmarks. For small sites, which we actually get compared to on Google, it's less than a minute. If you go up to the larger sites, it's 2 to 2.5 minutes. For the industry, the largest sites get about 2 minutes. Over our full 3 months, our average is 5.5 minutes. So that's 2.5 times as long as the average that other people spend on similar websites. However, I also want to look at the trend here. In October, when we had all those advertisements and people were following links, our average was 5 minutes. We had a 50% increase to December at 7.5 minutes. And when you think about 7.5 minutes, think about if one person comes to the website and leaves, then to get an average of 7.5, another person came and spent 15 minutes. You go, oh, what's 15 minutes? But when was the last time you spent 15 minutes on a single website? Okay?
So that brings up the question, do you have by any chance the distribution of times?
They don't give, I do, actually, I didn't put that in my talk. What we see, the interesting thing about our distribution is it has a very long tail. So there's a big peak at 10 seconds, all the people who just came and left. And then it kind of slows down and it starts going up at about 3 minutes. And we have another maximum that's at about 5 minutes, like 5 to 10 minutes. And then that starts to fall off. And then there's this long tail that goes out to like 2 hours. Which is really cool.
Is the average taken on the people, just the people who stay after they visit?
No, the average is actually taken for everybody who comes. So there's 1 second averaged in there. It includes the bounces, yeah. Because some of the bounces actually, our homepage has a lot of stuff. Some of the bounces might have stayed 3 minutes.
It's even better than that.
I didn't say this, but how about somebody who gets bored and sleeps?
Yeah, we do actually, I will say, you get a couple 8 hours put in there. And you go, okay, this guy went to one page and spent 8 hours. And that was like, they obviously didn't close the web browser. But they seem to be, and to pull these out, you actually have to like look by city and stuff to see this. But I don't see, I'm surprised how few of those I see. And what I do see is people visiting 53 pages and spending 2 hours on site. You know, in addition to all the people who are coming in and going, oh, what am I doing here? And spend 2 seconds and leave. So again, these are averages in my 15 minutes, which I'm now going to run over. I didn't have time to go into those details, but you can waste your life on Google Analytics. So we're doing really well with time, but one of the questions I want to talk about on the next, I'll get back on the next slide, is what caused this change over time and how long people are staying. But this comes to our next question I had earlier. What percentage of the people coming to the site have never been to the site before? The benchmark average is about 60%. Ours is 83%, but you can see we started out high when the site was new. We went down and we went back up again. I'm mixed about whether this is good or bad. I like people coming back to my site, but on the other hand, I also like getting new people because that really keeps propagating the site and keeps our visitors' numbers growing. Most people think higher new is better. And we have had like a number of visitors who like come like 100 times to the site, and there are more of them than there are of us. So I think there's some people who are actually using it for teaching or something, which is very exciting as well. But let me quickly talk about what caused this transition. And we're going to answer that by looking in more detail at how did people find emergentuniverse.org. And there are 3 ways you can find a website, basically, according to Google Analytics anyway. One is you can type the address directly into your browser because somebody told you about the website. The other is you can follow a link in the laser pointer sign. You can follow a link from another website, and we had quite a lot of that in that first month when we had those 2 big peaks from advertising. Or you can search on Google. And this is what I want to focus on because in October only 1% of our visits came from search. And in December, nearly half of our visitors came from search. So if we look at search as a function of time, you can see that a big thing happened right near the end of November. What was that? Well, as already was told, we have a flash site. The Google spider bots cannot look at flash sites. So what our Telman programmer, Steve Hartside, did in collaboration with myself is we created a page-by-page mirror site in HTML that has all of the text that's on our flash site, and in addition has page titles that are very heavy in commonly searched relevant keywords. And we kind of got that online in October. It took a couple weeks for the search bots to get to it. And then once they did, all of a sudden we started getting a lot of search results. And we're doing really well in the search rankings. I'm really excited by this. People found us with 500 or 600 different search terms. But these are just a few of the, I think, most common ones people might come in on. And you can see these are our rankings in Google, we're coming up on the first page. Emergent, we're 18th. Interactive Science Museum, we come up 9th. There are a lot more online science museums, that's a little harder. Alzheimer's Brain, 16th. Computer Generated Art, 16th. Educational Manga, 8th. So people are finding us by search engines because we're on Google's first page, which is just fantastic news.
What are the first 7 educational manga?
What?
What are the first 7 educational manga?
Actually, there's an entire website devoted to different educational manga.
Okay.
So it has, we need to actually be a link on their site too. But talking about, are these good people coming to our site? And the answer is yes, because if we look at people who came in by searching, the average time they spent on the site was almost 8 minutes. The bounce rate was only 18%, and 85% of them new. So searching is enabling us to get new visitors who want to be at our site and continue to explore it. And I think that's why our times are going up. We're now getting more people who actually want to be there. And I'm quite excited about that. So, in summary, are they visiting? I would say yes, although on the next slide I'll talk about, when did I start? Anyone know when I started?
Yeah.
I've got 5 minutes to my 20.
Just started about 9:25.
Oh, I started at 9:25? Good, all right.
Pay no attention to that clock.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I'll say on the next slide, of course we would like to get more visitors, but what we're really excited about is we're getting visitors who are interested in our site and want to explore it and are spending the time doing so. So this brings me to the last part of my talk, what's next? Well, obviously the first one is we would love to increase visitors numbers always. We're getting significant numbers, but we're still between small and medium. It'd be really nice to bump ourselves up into that medium group and eventually maybe get even larger. And how do we do that? And I'm not actually going to go into detail on this. You can ask any questions if you like. We really need to do more marketing. We commissioned a social networking marketing report that had a lot of great ideas. I think we can get a lot more visitors if these are followed up on. We also need to breathe some life into the forum, which I didn't get a chance to talk about. People are reading it, but they're not contributing. And there are ways we can probably improve that and keep that from dying. But what I wanted to talk about is also to work on our next exhibit on superconductivity. And our goal here would be to have this exhibit online by 2011, because this is the 100-year anniversary of the discovery of superconductivity. However, famous last words, nothing's happening because we have no money left for this project. And that's, as you heard earlier from David, under discussion of how that may be resolved. Where did we get to before the funding ran out? Research into the problem. I'll tell you in the next slide a little bit more about this, but we got to what I call the key stories. We have these things left to do. You don't really need to know that, but it's a lot. This is an old transparency that you've seen before, and I want to just go through this really quickly so you understand what I'm talking about when I say key stories. What are these? If I want to create successful activities for my exhibit, I want to start with my learning objectives. Those are the ones that I talked about earlier in the talk. And then I want to look at my topics and look at important content in those topics. In this case, it's superconductivity. And then I basically want to use the objectives as a filter for my topics in order to determine basically what are the key stories that I want to tell my visitors. Once I have that, then I can take what I know about my target audience, who's the same audience that we were trying to engage with the sites to date, and combine this information to create activities that will serve two purposes. One, they will engage our target audience, and two, they will support our learning objectives, so that when, like I did for emergence and amyloids, when we come back after the fact and say, are we meeting our goals, we will in fact do so. So what are the key stories that we came up with for superconductivity? So the first one is quite straightforward. It's to say that superconductivity is an emergent phenomenon, and it illustrates numerous key emergent concepts, such as interactions, correlations, synchronicity, many body effects, more is different. And this, of course, would be where you start trying to explain to people what superconductivity is all about. Another one that's maybe not so obvious is that if you look at the development that led up to BCS theory, it actually is a very good illustration of how you can take the idea of an emergent perspective and apply it to solving a complex problem. We can come up with sort of a step-by-step strategy of how you solve a problem if you look at it from an emergent perspective, and this is in fact really what was done. And so this can provide a concrete example, as well as at the same time introducing people to the concepts of BCS theory. Similarly, for high-temperature superconductivity and heavy electron materials, this is a topic that, in our search for understanding, can enable us to really talk about organizing principles and how looking for organized principles can help us to understand these complex systems. So really, these two things is going to a deeper level in understanding what emergence is as it applies to superconductivity. Going to our other objectives in terms of engaging our visitors, the history of superconductivity contains numerous stories that can engage visitors on a personal level. This image is kind of one of my favorites because it shows how politics affected science, because in the 1951 longshoremen strike in New York, the journals that contained Landau and Ginsburg's seminal article on superconductivity and phase transitions ended up at the bottom of the Hudson. And so it was delayed for many years, this theory making it into the Western scientific community. Additionally, in terms of relevance to our lives, superconductivity, and this is not, we don't actually need room temperature superconductivity for this, that would make things even better. But with high temperature superconductivity, this technology is poised to help us in many different ways in solving looming crises in energy distribution and global warming. I can give examples if people want to take more time. And superconductor technology is already in our visitors' lives. For example, they're in filters and cell phone towers. And it plays a key role in several technologies in several sectors. And most people aren't aware of this. So these are the key stories that we'd like to convey through activities. Should we get the funds? So, in summary, what have I told you about the status of Emergent Universe? We're live with 22 activities about emergence, amyloids, and Alzheimer's disease. Our prototype studies indicate, nice loose words, indicate so we can do a test, that emergentuniverse.org has met both its learning and its design objectives. We've got a very good visitor response with greater than 8,000 visits since launch, with an average time on the site for December of 7.5 minutes, which is outstanding. We also achieved first stage search engine rankings, which led to 45% of the visitors that came in December. I would love to see this site have more visitors, but that's going to require additional marketing efforts. Even the Exploratorium spends a lot of its energy marketing. For superconductivity, a great set of stories that will illustrate both key emerging concepts and personal relevance of this topic to our visitors' lives. And it would be really cool if we could get the funding to make that happen. And I'll take questions, which I'm sure there's no time for. Yeah.
Since you went as far as Alzheimer's to make the point of emergent phenomena, and high-end physicists have been so successful with outreach somehow, this the large collider and so forth. So people understand the universe, how it comes about through the Big Bang theory and all that. So one could begin, in some sense, to say, here it is, this universe coming out of these quarks and out of nothing, and there is this soup and this completely amorphous and random, very high temperature universe. How does from this amorphous high entropy universe, all of a sudden this cools down, and then it self-organizes, it emerges, and all of a sudden this universe sticks up its neck and says, well, out of this completely random soup, and says, here I am, I want to understand myself. This consciousness which arises from this universe wants to understand itself. So that's emergent
Right.
phenomenon.
Right. And something like
So
that.
to harmonize these things somehow, for people to understand what, how that life is also, we are behind understanding kind of life.
Well, I kind of like the emergence as a counter argument to the creationism, that how could we get something so complex if somebody didn't create it? Here's proof.
And also, how does this thing that is being emerging how does it acquire this thing that wants to understand itself? It can look at itself.
Right.
How does the observer emerge out of all of this?
Right. Well, if you have some answers, we could do this.
That's actually, if you want to explain emergence just at a quick level on an airplane, something you just say, how does a collection of molecules think about itself?
Yeah.
Right.
And that gets across emergence right away.
Right.
But I wanted to point out that this, and I noticed Tony sitting back there, but I mean, it's clear, if we think about this isn't limited to just superconductivity or things that ICANN is interested in. This is a potential model for how to do these kinds of exhibits for any area of science that that we want. I mean, this could be used to develop exhibits about the early universe. This could be used to develop exhibits about emergence in social science phenomena. It doesn't have to be limited to what ICANN has immediate interest in. It could definitely be a much bigger partnership. And I think one of the points that you made when you were developing Emergent Universe is that it's still the case that this is an order of magnitude or more cheaper than doing the corresponding hard physical museum development. Right?
Typically, because you don't have, you don't have the materials costs,
right.
You don't have the space costs,
right.
and we have programming costs, but those are typically much less than fabrication costs.
So the ballpark number per is about $100,000 roughly, right?
At the level of depth
right.
that I went into for amyloids, yes.
Right.
Obviously, one could do an exhibit that has fewer pages, fewer activities, and less depth, and that would be,
right.
less.
But that just gives a ballpark number.
Yes, and that's a reasonable ballpark number.
Who determines what will be the next exhibit after Superconductivity?
David and Daniel tell me. I don't know their process.
Well, then I'd like to make a prediction based on what we've heard about climate change and sustainable energy. That you approach that topic through superconductivity.
Yes.
But I think it's probably going to get its own.
I think that would be a fabulous area to do exhibits in.
Yeah.
And in fact, I really plan to highlight this. There's so many. There are like 7 or 8 different superconductor technologies that are have the potential to really help us connect up renewable resources that have variable voltage and are hard to connect to the grid, that have the potential to really help us with some of our energy distribution issues and the difficulty with the grid. That superconductivity is a technology, is one of the key factors in the smart grid initiative. And so this has the potential to be, like the zoom into the brain on amyloids is one of the biggest areas and largest exhibits. This is one of the things that I would really concentrate on because I think this is extremely important. We'll get the attention of our target audience. Yeah.
If you get the money to do this, you shouldn't overlook the original discovery of superconductivity, which is not on the list.
It actually is. It's here. Sorry. It's here.
Example of
And
an
the history
emergent
of superconductivity contains that as one element of it. But I mean, which particular aspect of it? I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I'm just saying it's a fantastic example of an emergent phenomenon, something totally unexpected.
Happened,
because
yeah.
of advances
In the cooling experiment. Yes, and that's actually, I want to do some sort a variation on a timeline, highlighting scientists, highlighting the research process, highlighting the investigative process, but I have to find a way to make it more interesting than your average timeline. So it'll be really fun to go and explore. But they're great. There's stories all throughout the entire 100 years of segments of really interesting advances and competitions that I think can become sort of an exciting adventure story.
Well, should we thank Susie and move on? Oh, I'm sorry. Question here, yes.
So I was just checking the website. It's really fancy, but I just wonder whether there's a line of making a website. It's just if it's possible to get more links or articles, so that people may stay longer in the website.
Right. So to have and so that brings the question was about in addition to this fancy website, can we have articles or modules or resources that will get people to come back and stay longer? And this is the purpose of the forum. So the website, each activity on the website links into a discussion forum. And this is, we have a set of resources you can go to, but more dynamically there's the discussion forum. And what's happened is we're getting visitors coming to the discussion forum and reading the posts, but all of the posts were done by people in the project, so they're all expert posts. And it seems like nobody feels comfortable actually posting. And those of us who did post have gone on to do other things and are not posting. So what we really need to do is get that established. Additionally, there was the idea of establishing an Emergent Matters blog, which would be a good place for expert posts that could continually reference back and direct people to the museum site. So those are two of the areas in the social networking marketing that can do both of those things if we put the energy into it.
Oh, Jim.
I had occasion to send a freelance writer to the website. This is a person who will be doing an article for the Michigan Alumni Magazine on emergence. And her reaction was that it was a great museum-style website, but that she would have, as a journalist, seeking information, like to have something equivalent to a kind of handouts,
right,
so that she could easily get stuff that she could, print to a printer. And I guess that would be analogous to the things you can take physically away from a museum.
Right.
Whether that's a concept that we ever thought about before.
It's not one because it wasn't part of our original purpose, but it's something to think of perhaps including in the resources section.
Yeah.
But again, these materials would need to be developed.
Yeah.
And that was beyond the scope of what we were doing. But the resources gives us a place where we could easily add that in.
Yeah.
And it's a good idea. I mean, people do like that and do use that. And there's always this. Are you setting something up for somebody who wants to just go read something and get the information right away? Or are you setting it up for somebody to come in and explore and play and learn that way? It's a very different learning process.
The latter was clearly our first objective.
Exactly.
And the creative part of it.
And again, also the Emergent Matters blog could be a way to also include some of that information. And so I think linking things together that serve different purposes so people with different goals can get what they want would be a really positive next step as well.
Let me suggest that probably we should count this extensive discussion as part of our forum. And we have to hear from Anson Chung, who came from Cambridge, and also from Yvonne. So should we perhaps first bring Yvonne back in, because I believe you had a 10 to 15 minute presentation. And then we'll switch over to Anson, and then we will roughly be on schedule.